Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Real Life Health Show. And one of the topics we discuss here often is such a serious topic that I believe not many people understand as clearly as we could and should, but it's quite obvious there are things going on. The topic is cancer. And so many people are affected by cancer today that this is a topic we need to continuously study and learn more about. Well, there's a popular woman on YouTube named Julian Berry who has a really good YouTube channel, and I'll put the link below to that, where she interviews people on many different subjects and topics, and she interviews people who've been eating a raw food diet for a good amount of time. Well, she's seen some of my videos on cancer and the things that I understand to be the cause and the cure of cancer, and she wanted to ask me about those things. So she interviewed me on her channel, and she uh, was really pleased with the way the interview came out, and so was I. And she's allowed me to share that on my channel here with you to get this message out even more because it's so important. So thank you to Julian Berry for letting me share this interview on my channel. Everyone, you can go see it on hers as well. But here is the interview I did about cancer. And put your comments and questions below. And if you want to see more videos like this, let me know. Here we go.
Yeah. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I am Jillian Berry, and today we have an incredible guest and an incredible topic in store for you guys. We are talking about the best diet when dealing with cancer. This is a topic that really hits close to home for me right now, as I have someone close to me that was recently diagnosed with cancer. So we have my good friend on Paul Nissan from the Raw Life Health Show. He is a 25-year raw vegan, and he has a lot of knowledge on this topic because I know it can be confusing when someone close to you or when you personally get diagnosed with this and you have no idea where to turn. So let's get right into it. Hey, Paul, thanks so much for coming on the channel.
Thank you for having me back here again and talking about this important topic.
Yeah, it's a great topic. You have fantastic videos on this. I will link your channel below. And I thought this was a great topic to talk about because I know it can be confusing when people get this diagnosis and there can be so many people in their ear telling them what to do. Take the medical route, don't take the medical route, take this route, go to Hippocrates, go to Gerson, eat all fruit, don't eat any fruit. Like it's very, very confusing out there. So I thought we would talk to you about what you personally think the best natural route is. And I just want to preface this by saying that I think everyone has to do what they believe is best for them. And if they believe the medical route it will work for them and is best for them, then I think there's so much to our belief as well. And you just really have to do what is best for you.
Yes, well, it's not only cancer. Anytime somebody's giving a life-threatening diagnosis, it's this is like your life. So it's people cannot think normal. I know people that have such a strong belief in healing naturally and natural foods, and they've been doing it. But then when the doctor tells them you only got a couple of months to live, people freak out, and they listen to the doctors, and the doctors have a very way of comforting people, and it is comforting to know. I mean, even myself, I've always been against medical hospitals and things like this, but I was recently in a situation where I had to go to the hospital, and I was like so thankful for the doctors and stuff. And I've always said going to the doctors for an emergency room is the only reason you should be in a hospital. And I have
Mhm.
to step back on that situation because it's not the only reason. The medical people are trained, they're excellent in diagnostics to tell you what's wrong. And in certain situations, it might be a better option. Now, when it comes to cancer, it's such a tough situation for people and their loved ones because everyone has this doomsday approach. Cancer is the end or the final thing. And I've been talking about cancer for a very long time, and I have held retreats, and I've had whenever I have somebody teaching about cancer, I would like them. They've been through it. Like there's one fellow at Hippocrates. He used to work at Hippocrates. His name was Nurse Tom. You should have him on the show. He is excellent, and he got cured from stage 4 cancer with the Hippocrates diet. So he's one of the people I have teach on this and have a lot of videos on. And I started, myself, people close to me have cancer, so I try to keep track of these things. There was a fellow named Dr. Shandell in South Florida who has something called the Cancer Blood Profile Test. Now, Dr. Shandell had passed away, but his work still goes on. American Metabolic Laboratories.net, and it's a great profile that shows where people are, their cancer tumors are, and so on. And to monitor that, and that's something I've been monitoring for many, many years, is really important to know where you're at. And he's had people come to him that they've been told they're perfectly fine by the doctors after they got their blood work done. But when you go to a doctor, you get something called a CBC blood test, which is a basic chemistry blood profile, and it only tells you a few things. It doesn't tell you the things you need to know. So I recommend people get to that website and at least look at the profile. There's 2 tests he has in his profile that he's the only one in the United States that they do it. But in Europe, they do these tests. So monitoring your blood work is very important. So when somebody's diagnosed with cancer, there's the emotional aspect of it, and then there's the physical aspect of it. And emotional is the big challenge, because you're told you're going to die, or you that's the perception, but the doctors might say, well, we could prolong this or stop this. And then you got to think of the physical pain that goes along with either the medical route or not the medical route, because it's still painful to deal with this. It seems pretty interesting that most people that have cancer don't even know it until they're told they have it, and then all of a sudden they feel pain and they haven't felt pain. And so there's a tremendous connection between the physical and the psychological and the mind. So I know I work with people that have been around a long time, Dr. Fred Bishy and other people. And surgery, when I was younger, we like absolutely no surgery, never. But no, in a lot of cases, surgery is very good. There's a fellow named Chris Walk, and he has something called Chris Beats Cancer. That's his site. He's excellent. He got surgery to remove his cancer. They wanted to do chemo and everything after that, and he said no. He just started going on a raw diet and stuff, so it don't come back. And I think that was an excellent way to approach the situation. But he had the surgery, and he's doing great now. I wouldn't rule out surgery immediately, even especially if you don't believe in a natural way. Here's the thing: the natural way of healing is a lot longer than the quick way of the medical route. It's the medical route is we're going to cut it out. We're gonna try to heal you as soon as possible, but it really doesn't take away the cause of the problem, and that's where the healing is: get rid of the cause, not the issue. But it's kind of a quick and easy solution or answer. Well, oh, we got a tumor, we'll just cut it out. So if you try to get rid of a tumor naturally, whether it's wheatgrass or eating naturally and so on, it takes a much longer time. But there's a lot less these so-called side effects, which I call direct effects. There's a lot less side effects and other issues that you're dealing with. Even chemotherapy is their quick answer. We got to get this quickly and do this quickly. In some situations, chemotherapy, I mean, it's terrible for the body and everything about it is terrible. But there have been situations where it might be their only option or their better option. I know at Hippocrates, I heard somebody teaching once about something called, no, it wasn't at Hippocrates, it was Dr. Tom Lodi, somebody I interviewed who is really good with natural healing cancer. But there's something called direct chemotherapy or pinpoint chemotherapy, and it pinpoints it. So there's not just see what medical doctors do, they just blast the whole body with chemotherapy. There's a way to use it much more safer. So Dr. Tom Lodi is another person I definitely would recommend people that have been diagnosed with cancer. And he's a medical doctor, so it's not only somebody who's looking just to do all natural, but do it all natural with somebody who's has an open mind to the medical and understands that, and working together. So it's hard for people that have loved ones that have cancer, especially if we know that there are things to do and they don't want to listen. For example, this Valasta Astaxanthin, it does wonders for people with cancer. It's the world's greatest inflammatory, and it's absolutely an amazing product. Dr. Fred Bishy told me about this, and I hadn't heard of it. I looked it up. I've been using it on my patients, and it's been amazing. But I sent this to my mother. I said, here, take this. This will help you. It's wonderful. She didn't want it. She didn't want it because she's so brainwashed by society and the way it goes. And if a doctor told her to take this, she would take it. So it's a challenge all around when you deal with cancer. So What was your original question?
It is. No, and I was gonna ask you too, it can be a challenge, and like you were saying earlier, people can think one thing, but when they actually get diagnosed, the emotions and the way they feel can be completely different. Because the person close to me who's was diagnosed 2 days ago, I know in the past we'd have conversations if anything like that ever happened, and they had said, like, they would never do the chemo route and stuff, but then after being at the doctor, and first finding out the news, like, they seemed right on the path of, like, wanting to do the surgery and the chemo, which I can totally understand because you just were told you have cancer in your body, it's scary. So, in your opinion, when people get diagnosed like that, like, what do you think is the best route to take? Like, how like, the first question, is it Hippocrates? Is it juicing? Like, I told her maybe read The Grape Cure because I read that book by Johanna Brandt where they cured cancer on the grape diet, things like that, because it can just be so confusing. And do you think there is a one like, a natural route that's sort of one size fits all for everybody? Or, like, grapes might work for one, but juicing might work for the other, you know?
Well, here's the thing. So my best friend uh, was on a raw vegan diet with me, started it with me, and he ended up getting a cancer diagnosis. And there's many reasons why, and we were just as shocked as you to hear something like that. Wow. But that was the fact. And he tried to go the natural route. He tried to do some medication. Bottom line is within 1 year, he died. Another good friend of mine more recently uh, had some stomach issues, and since I had colitis and got better, he called me up. He was asking me about it, and he went to the hospital for a colonoscope, and they said he had cancer, stomach cancer, or colon cancer, and he was eating raw too, but he ended up doing the chemo
Mhm.
over the doctor's advice, and as of now, all the cancer's gone, and he's better. And he had to
Mhm.
deal with the chemotherapy, but he's better. So, it's there's so many questions when it comes to this, but here's what I tell people. The first thing people should do is when they're diagnosed with cancer is there's a series called The Truth About Cancer. It's a series of videos that a couple of years ago, Ty Bollinger put it on, and it's excellent. So you can just look it up online, The Truth About Cancer. And I interviewed Ty Bollinger and other people because his whole family got sick from cancer. It's excellent. So The Truth About Cancer. And that's going to take care of the mental part of it. There's doctors in the video, there's medical doctors and so on. It's a wonderful series, The Truth About Cancer. And one of the people on there is my friend Jordan Rubin, who was a best-selling author and who healed ulcerative colitis and Crohn's disease, but ended up getting cancer as well. And he talked about his story and his healing story. And he listed me the second thing. So that's the first thing I recommend. Another thing I recommend is, like I was saying earlier, the blood test, the blood profile panel, a cancer profile panel. I recommend the one at American Metabolic Laboratories, with Dr. Schindel. But you want to see where you're at. So whatever path you choose, whether it's chemotherapy or natural, whatever path, you can monitor it through your blood and see if what you're doing for you is working. So if somebody wants to go the natural route, fine. First, take the blood panel, see where you're at, go your natural way, monitor it, and if it's working for you, great. If not, then try something else.
And what
And,
do you
and,
mean
and
with the blood panel? Do you mean, like, check, like, your thyroid, B12, kidneys, like, just
no,
check
I'm
everything?
talking about your cancer tumors and all your
Okay.
cancer markers. And for example, C-reactive protein is measures the inflammation in your body. That should be under 1 in a healthy person. A person with cancer, it could be in the hundreds, and something is wrong.
And
So if you do,
is this test something that doctors do when somebody's diagnosed? Like, the person
well,
closest to me, do you think?
a panel is a bunch of tests, not just one test. So if you go to any blood test website for, let's say, women's health, let's say, and you do or cancer profile on any website on the internet, a good one is Personal Labs. If you whether it's like if somebody has diabetes or something, you get this diabetes profiles or panels, and it's all the tests that they feel is the best for that particular illness. And there's one on cancer, and there are the common things. There's the cancer tumor markers. So there's like 4 or 5 of them that are common, the things you want to check. They're all going to be high if you have cancer. And one of the reasons why Dr. Schindel created his profile was he wanted a less intrusive way of people monitoring the cancer besides biopsies, because biopsies, there's some question to it that if you take a biopsy of the tumor, it can spread the cancer because you're cutting open the cancer tumor. So he wanted a less intrusive way of monitoring if whatever you're doing is working for you. So he never really suggested people what to do, but he just told them where they're at. So that's what a good profile would do. So that's what I recommend. I recommend for the mental to see the truth about cancer. For the physicals, find out where you're starting from. So whatever path you choose, you could take it from there. Now, a lot of people have no idea about diet, and whatever somebody decides to do, whether it's chemotherapy or a natural route, you gotta eat healthier. And for people that have no knowledge about diet or anything, if they can get there, I do recommend the Hippocrates Health Institute. They have a 3-week course that can teach people what took me years to learn and people years to learn. And it talks about, healing in general, and people go there for all reasons, but one of the main things people go there for is cancer. And I've been very connected with them over the years, and seeing people go there, and just the education and knowledge of what to eat regardless of which path people take. That's another thing I'd recommend. I 100%, I have a lot of people call me with cancer. This product, Astaxanthin, because what it does is it's an anti-inflammatory. And I have videos on my website with one fella, Manny, who had bladder cancer, and they wanted to take out his bladder. And then he started taking this, and he didn't need to get that done. They couldn't even find the cancer anymore. I'm not talking about cures or anything else, but one lady, her CRP was in a 50 or 60. She took this, it went down to like 3. And there's the videos are on my website of all these things. Fred Bishley told me about this. It works. And there's many different astaxanthins out there, but this is by Valasta, and they have a US patent design of making it more absorbable because it connects to the glucose and it gets into the cells quicker, and that really helps. I've done the Hippocrates program personally. The wheatgrass, the greens, all of this is extremely important. It's imperative people get rid of the processed food, and whatever they were doing, cancer arrived in the body, and it didn't happen overnight. It's been brewing in your body for a very long time. And I have a whole another talk about disease and how it starts in the body, and it was one disease with many different stages, cancer being a later stage on a cellular level. But the encouraging thing is, and I want to encourage everybody who's watching right now that you or somebody you love has cancer, is it's common. You can heal. It's not an odd thing that you can get better. It's common. You can heal, and you have to believe that and trust that. And for me, when I got sick with my illness, and even with my cancer diagnosis on my back, I had faith, and that was a very important thing. I didn't just give up. And there are many different types of cancer, but like you said earlier, it's very confusing of all the things people can do. That's why it's important to monitor what you're doing to make sure it's working for you. So take these blood tests and so on. And it's not always going to appear better. Sometimes it might appear when things are getting worse. If you understand some of the numbers and your tumor markers might go up when you're doing the right thing, but that's because of the detoxification. And I have an interview talking with Sam Shepard, who got this about that particular thing recently. So I would give people a list of some good educators on my website. If you just type cancer on my YouTube channel, cancer, and you'll see, like, a lot of people are getting into raw foods these days just because they want to feel great and look great, and that's wonderful. But for me, since I had a disease, that's what got me into this, and that's what drives me, is to help people get better. So you type cancer and you'll see a bunch of videos on my website. Contact those people, because those people are people that I have found to know so much about this. Dr. Sandra, who used to work at Hippocrates Health Institute, she had throat cancer, and she got better with the Hippocrates diet. She's a medical doctor from Colombia. So people that I know that don't know Spanish really well, I send them right to her. And of course, Dr. Fred Bishley. I've never met anyone that knows more about helping people with cancer than he does, and that knows the body so well. I mean, you and I know him from like, oh, he's a great raw foodist doing this a long time. But if somebody has cancer, he's the person you want to go to. Even me, with what I know, I send people that have advanced cancer to him because he knows his stuff, and not everyone's always willing to listen, but he knows what he's doing. So that's the other thing I recommend, is do a consultation with Dr. Fred Bishley.
I think I might
Right.
call him later too for help
Yes,
with.
absolutely. So those are the 3 main things I recommend. I recommend the mental thing, the the Truth About Cancer series, I recommend the blood work and consultation with Dr. Fred Bishey, and
Mhm.
Fred will confirm that this astaxanthin product is the real
And
deal.
do you think that product is good whether people are taking the natural route or the medical route? That product can still help?
100%, hundred
Yeah.
percent, because it's an anti-inflammatory. It's more powerful than turmeric. It's like
Mhm.
50 times more powerful than turmeric. It brings
Yeah.
inflammation down, so it's imperative. And it's not only for people with cancer. I take it, and
Mhm.
it's great for arthritis. It's wonderful because any disease that's inflammation driven is it's going to help. So
Yeah.
yes, it's
And
absolutely.
I wanna ask you, I know someone else recently who was diagnosed with cancer as well, and they were having headaches and a few things going on, feeling dizzy, even started fainting, so they went to the doctor and they found out they had brain cancer and lung cancer and only 2 months to live. So that can be just whoa, right? Wow, this is just the craziest news your entire life. You hear of that happening in the movies, but for it to actually happen in real life is just devastating. Do you think when somebody is diagnosed with cancer that's so far along like that, they could still explore the medical route? Or do you think it's just there's not enough time to properly heal the body and and to heal through foods or other natural remedies when the cancer is so far along?
Yeah, I mean, you mean explore the natural route if there is
Yeah.
enough time.
Yeah.
Uh, these are examples that I talk about when I say, some people call me up, they're like, I don't want to do surgery no matter what, and in some cases, great, but in some cases, it's like, especially if you have a tumor that's blocking a certain artery or something, or some people don't want to remove an organ or something, but everyone is at a different stage, and in some situations, that's why I said the medical route might be the better choice for that particular situation. I wouldn't listen to a doctor's diagnosis of them telling you have 2 weeks to live or a month to live, because the doctor's only basing that on everyone they've treated with that only survived that long. And I look at that as not a good track record for the doctor, not really the true track record. So no doctor can truly say how long a person has. They're just basing it on the people they've treated with that. But I definitely think people need to have an open mind about these different things. So this drives me, this topic, because this disease in general. Like, I had a illness that was still no medical cure for, ulcerative colitis, and a good friend of mine decided to go to medical route and get his colon taken out. That's how serious this is. And one of my best friends, who's a doctor, had colitis and came to me. He didn't want to do this route of the natural diet. He got his colon taken out like 20 years ago, and he's still doing fine, from this project. Because if you don't have a colon, you can't get colon cancer, right? That's their thinking. But I went the medical route. I mean, the natural route. The natural route is not for everyone. I'll put it that way. That'd be my answer. And it's not for everyone, and it's not for every situation. But you
Mhm.
can mix the two. Chris Beats Cancer. Chris has a wonderful cancer series as well. Chris Walk. Chris Beats Cancer. A wonderful series as well. So,
Yeah.
so yeah, if somebody's been diagnosed, and we put it in ourselves. Like, I have a strong faith, so I definitely believe in the power of prayer, and I've seen miraculous things with people with diseases just change quickly. But as bad as I know chemo is and stuff, see what I do is, and it's interesting. I've learned in life not to make a decision when I'm in an emotional state. And I try to teach my children that. I think it's one of the most important lessons people can make, because it's one of the most common mistakes people make. Do not make decisions, especially major decisions, when you're in an emotional state. So I've set up my life where I know people that I trust in certain areas. There's people, doctors or friends that are raw foodists that know about health, whether it's financially or something. That if I'm emotional, I'm going to go to these people and trust them. I know them well enough. I'm going to trust their decision over mine. So, people might not have put themselves in that situation where they know people, but Dr. Fred Bishey is one of them. So, in these cases, I would find whether it's Dr. Bishey, Chris Walk, or these other people, I'd ask them and see what they say. Now, if they all have conflicting answers, then you got a decision to make. But if they all say the same thing, then you might want to say, well, I'm too emotional to make a decision, and they're all telling me to do this or not do this. I'm going to go
Mhm.
listen to them.
And there is so much to the belief, I feel like you were saying about having faith and stuff too. And I feel like if you really believe like the natural route will work, then maybe that has more power too, your belief, right? And your faith as well as believing in the healing. And same goes for like the medical route. I just think the belief is such a huge thing too with our body.
Well, one of the thing is I teach a lot in churches, and there's so much healing in the Bible. I have a book called Health According to the Scriptures, and there's so much healing in the Bible. And Jesus can put his hands on the eyes of somebody who's blind and they can see. And there are people that I know that had trouble walking and getting out of wheelchairs and walking. So this works. But I tell people, if Jesus brought people back from the dead, he could certainly heal you of your cancer. But you have to, believe it, and want to believe it. Because if you don't want to believe it, what whether you want to call it hope or faith, what hope do you have if you're rejecting this great information? That even at the chance that it might work, like it seems unbelievable that a Red Sea can, the sea can open up and people can walk through there. But now they're finding old chariot wheels of Egyptian soldiers under that sea where they crossed over, and the confirmation just proves it to be real. But no matter how impossible it believes, you're not helping yourself by just throwing away that information. So faith is so important, so important.
Hmm.
And people close to me, really close to me, like I told you, my best friend and other people have been diagnosed with cancer and other illnesses. Some of them just don't want to listen. And at that point, you don't want to get yourself sick. At that point, you got to say, you know what? Whatever you decide to do, I even if I don't agree with it, I support you and I love you and I'm here for you to help you. And it's the
Hmm.
hardest thing to do when it's the hardest thing to do, but you know what? It's the best thing to do. I know a lady that was sick. She was young. She was doing raw food. She was young. She got diagnosed with cancer while she was pregnant.
Wow.
And to make it even worse, she wanted to do the natural route to get better from the cancer. And her husband was like, no, I want you to go the medical route. And they got in such a fights over it that they separated.
Wow.
And it was just crazy. So, we have to just sometimes just say, I'm going to love you and I support you.
Yeah.
And it's important. So whatever these people close to you or people close to people out there, let them know what you do, and they got to make their own decisions.
Yeah, and surround them with love because that love is powerful and can do so much for them too when they're feeling stressed and going through that. And they need more love and laughter and things like that.
They
And I was
need
gonna,
love, not pity. They need love, not
mhm,
pity. Yes.
true. And I was gonna ask you, I think it's an important topic that's not brought up enough. What do you think causes cancer in your opinion? And why do you think even some of these raw foodists are getting cancer when you think like this diet is so cleansing, you would think it would be almost impossible to get that diagnosis on this lifestyle?
Well, there's many other aspects to health and disease other than just diet alone. So it's not only diet. So most people are living an unhealthy life, but they might be eating healthy. But they're living an unhealthy life. This is why there are so many people that eat unhealthy, but they're living healthy life and they don't get sick. So you got to look at everything as a whole, because you could eat great, but if you're, putting a cell phone near your head, if you're not sleeping at all, and if you're drinking and doing drugs, your good diet's not going to do anything for you. So there's many other aspects, and there's not only physical aspects. There's emotional and spiritual aspects. Stress can create cancer in the body. So no matter how great you're eating, if you're getting stressed out, cancer can be created. There's environmental factors. So there's a lot of factors, and I know, and our Creator says in the scriptures, if you diligently follow my instructions, I will not put the same diseases upon you that I put upon the Egyptians. And it wasn't about Egyptians; it was about that those that didn't listen to me. And I call them God and Jesus, and other people want to say nature and so on. But the point is, there are divine laws that'll keep us healthy. And as we break them, we get ourselves in situations. And I believe there's only one disease with many different stages. And the final stages are on a cellular level, things like cancer. Nobody wakes up with cancer one day and they've been healthy the day before. It's something that's building in their body for a long time. And they just don't realize it until they start feeling the pain or they get diagnosed with it. But we need to practice, have healthy things that we're doing. And some people don't want to accept that. They don't want to accept that they're responsible for their disease. A lot of people say, how dare you say that something I did created this in my body?
Hmm.
And nobody's perfect out there. But we know from a physical standpoint, if you keep this cleaner you keep the cells, the less likely you're going to get cancer. And you know what makes the cells toxic and dirty. And I have a great book called the Formula for Health, based on Arnold Ehret's books. Power minus obstruction equals vitality. You know, and
Hmm.
so we're all born with a certain amount of energy and very little destruction. But as we get older, these things can't move in the right direction, and as the obstruction raises, our power to get rid of it diminishes. And as long as we have enough power to get rid of the destruction that we're doing, we're going to be in some stage of health. But when that power becomes less than the obstruction, then we start experiencing the beginning signs of disease, which is constipation and so on. But then it gets worse and worse and worse. If we don't change what we're doing, now we have later stages of disease and no energy to do anything about it. So as we start detoxing and cleaning the body out, it goes back the other way, and we start giving the body the power to heal and overcome it. You know, look at Arnold Ehret's work. It's great information, and it talks about these different things.
Hmm. And I
So
think,
as for what causes cancer, we can't say, but we definitely know there's ways to deal with it. And we can't, if you keep doing what you're doing and expect a different result, that's the definition of insanity. So you have to change what you're doing.
true. And I know it can be hard for people to change what they're doing. And sometimes they might think, well, if I just got this diagnosis and I change these habits right away, maybe that will lead me into more stress because I'll go into withdrawal and I'll be feeling like super depressed for a couple months. And that's even worse on the body, right?
Stress is really something you don't want in your life.
Hmm.
I'd much rather see people not eat 100% raw and be have less stress than be perfect and have so much stress in their lives. I don't think that's a healthy thing to do.
Yeah, I agree. And I think way back when, I forget when exactly, and I forget the name, but somebody won a Nobel Peace Prize for discovering the fact that cancer cannot thrive in an alkaline environment in the body, and it thrives when it is acidic. So I'm wondering if you have any thoughts on that.
Yeah, that's Dr. Otto Warburg. So let me briefly say it's just started thunderstorming here. So if the video goes out,
Yeah,
we'll connect back in a moment. So
yeah.
sometimes it goes out for a second, but yeah, that's Dr. Otto Warburg, and you know, see, that's a tricky thing because we think, well, how could somebody eating raw get cancer or any other
Hmm.
disease? But people do. Then there's many other factors to health other than just the food we're eating. And like I know a lot of mistakes people are making on the raw diet with we talked about it last time, lack of exercise, getting stressed out, unhealthy relationships. I mean, it's amazing that people can live a stressful job. I tell people one of the first questions I ask people when I do a consultation with them, I say, "What do you do for a living?" And they tell me, I say, from a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you like your job? And if they say, "Oh, I hate it, I absolutely hate it," I said, "Well, if you want to be healthy, you cannot continue to get up every day doing something you hate, no matter how well you eat." So there's a lot of these factors to consider. And, when we do these different things and people, then you got different types of people. Some people say, "Well, I can't just quit my job." Well, why not? Make your reality happen of what you want to do. What do you love to do? And why can't you do that? So like people say to me, no excuses, just solutions, right?
Hmm. Hmm. And I'm wondering, do you think there's any specific foods that can be like superfoods and super powerful for healing people at a devastating time like that?
Absolutely. First, like Dr. Bishop taught me, health doesn't begin with what we add to our diet, it's what we eliminate. We have to eliminate the things that are creating the problem. That's where it must begin. As I said, this astaxanthin, which is an algae, is extremely important. And all sea vegetables have a tremendous amount of minerals in them, which people are deficient in. When it comes to superfoods and things like that, people are missing things, and they got to get those things so they don't have the deficiencies and so on. Usually it's minerals. A superfood, like if we've never seen a cucumber in the United States and somebody gives a cucumber, it's like, wow, that's a superfood. But it's really just a melon that's not available to us on a regular basis. But at Hippocrates Health Institute, they teach the healing power of the sprouts, because the chlorophyll is what's going to heal the cancer. It's the most alkalizing and has the most oxygen. It's like liquid oxygen. So chlorophyll is extremely important, and it's found mostly in wheatgrass. E3 live, which is another algae, E3 live, that's definitely something I'd recommend for people with cancer. Wheatgrass I'd recommend, and the sprouts, the green sprouts, especially the sunflower sprouts. I have a whole wall of sprouts here that I make all the time here, and the bean sprouts. So I think the sprouts and the algae and the seaweeds are very, very important because it's what most people are missing, and getting rid of a lot of the stuff that's creating a problem. Like you and I can get away with eating unorganic food. Somebody with stage 4 cancer, I would tell them, do not eat unorganic food. So you gotta base what you're doing for where you're at, and then you gotta go to what you're willing to do, and then finally what you're able to do. Some people, they can't afford organic food. So, they could, I talk about wild foods, and when I lived in New York, I used to go to Central Park with wild man Steve Brill and learn all about the wild edible greens that they have that most people don't know about. So that's very helpful.
Hmm.
So you definitely eliminating the things. I know some people that fast with cancer. There's some fasting reach places around the country that supervise fast. And I interviewed in my book once Dr. William Esser, who had a fasting retreat right down the block from where I am. And it was based on natural hygiene and everything else. And I've seen fasting work for people, but it's probably the extremest way to approach this. And I tell everybody is you have to work very hard to get sick. You have to overeat, you have to overwork, and you have to overthink. If you do nothing, your body's going to heal itself. It was designed to do that. You have to work very hard to get sick. And, so now you're going to have to work hard to get better because you've gotten yourself in the situation. But we have to have faith and everybody, you can get better. You can't give up hope. And people call me all the time in situations like this. And to be honest, not all the time, maybe 50% of the times people will get better. But the reality is 50% of the times people aren't. 50% of the people that call me are dying because there's different factors. Maybe it's too late. Maybe they started too late, or maybe they weren't willing to do something, or maybe it was just that's what was happening. But I've seen people get better just as much as I've seen people fail at this.
And I think the survival rates are different for different types of cancers, right?
They are, but they base a lot of those records and things on, the medical way of doing things.
Hmm.
Hippocrates Health Institute has good information on these things, but like one of the worst cancers they say is pancreatic cancer.
Wow.
So I know Dr. Fred Bishy's brother had pancreatic cancer, and he put him on a specific diet, and he was doing great. And on pancreatic cancer, that's like almost unheard of. But then he got off the diet, and then he succumbed to the disease. But the point being is, when you get to a certain place, there's no room for error. And that's what I like. You and I and people that aren't diagnosed with cancer, we have room for error. We have time to explore and to see what's working and not. But sometimes people are in a place where there's no room for error. And, sometimes surgery, sometimes chemo, and sometimes just the natural way. Just we got to really monitor these things very closely.
And maybe in some cases, it actually turns out to be a big blessing. Like Chris beat cancer. I'm sure he now sees it as a huge blessing because he went from such an extreme state of being unhealthy, having this cancer diagnosis, not like living his best life, to now just his healthiest version of himself, totally transmuted that whole situation into something so positive, and it is now inspiring so many people worldwide, right?
Disease is a great motivating factor. And before
Hmm.
I had my disease that I had, my ulcerative colitis, I was an atheist. And after my disease, I'm now a strong believer in Jesus. So I consider that it was a blessing to bring me to where I am these days. But, I've interviewed a lot of people in my book, The Raw Life, when I got into this. And with the raw diet, long-term raw fooders, a lot of them you and I know, and we interviewed today, they're still going strong. But there are a good amount of people I've interviewed that ended up dying, and a good amount of them were from cancer.
Wow.
And so it's and for a long time I struggled with it. I'm like, why? Because the interviews were great, everything they said sounded great. Some of them were authors, they wrote many great books. One of my favorite was Morris Kruk, some of the best raw food books you'll ever read in your life. And it's just, and you hear stories today about these people. One of the people that helped me get better with my colitis was David Klein, and he had a raw food magazine, and he didn't have cancer, but he died from something else recently.
Hmm.
And it's But we have to, I believe, we have to know that, life, we're only here for a short while, but it doesn't end when we end, it goes on, and that's the whole spiritual side of things. And it helps comfort us knowing, at least to me, knowing that there's a lot more to just our time here. And for those of you that are on the same belief, you understand it's a lot more comforting when you're going through something like this, because your survival isn't only about your life here. It's like, okay, well, now I'm going to go somewhere better if I've been doing what I should have been doing.
Well said. I completely agree with that. And I just wanted to ask you about the sugars as well. I know that's a huge thing. And like I said earlier, some people have healed on the grape cure through Johanna Brandt, that type of method. But a lot of people believe you need to stay away from sugars if you have cancer or any type of disease. And even if they don't, many times they think it can feed yeast, candida, and then lead to extreme situations like cancer. So, what are your thoughts on that? And why, if you do think that the sugars can feed cancer, why do you think that is?
Well, a lot of people, from a diet standpoint, get in trouble because they, in general, not only with cancer, they eat either too much sugar or too much fat. Too much of anything is no good. And I don't care if you call yourself raw or you're eating animals, too much of anything is no good. It's going to create stress in the body and it's going to create a problem. When you're in a disease state, I work with a lot of people that have ulcerative colitis, for example, and Crohn's disease. Raw food is not the best thing for somebody with ulcerative colitis in its whole state, because the body's not able to break down the food as quickly and as well. So having a lot of fiber, like a salad, a raw salad is the worst thing for somebody in an inflammatory Crohn's disease attack to eat. But having a green juice is one of the best things. So raw foods in a juice form would be even better. So when it comes to cancer and the sugar, and the idea is, Hippocrates Health Institute, Brian Clement did a lot of research and found out that sugar feeds the cancer. So they don't recommend anyone with cancer have any sugar in a diet. And it's not just artificial sugar, it's also natural sugar. However, there are other people that'll say, sugar isn't a major issue. Like in case of diabetes, we all think it's all sugar, but it's really fat. A lot of people are saying that leads to diabetes and continues it. From a cancer standpoint, like I said, I've met a lot of people over the years. Dr. Fred Bishy is one who I really respect and look up to and believe in. And, he tries to meet people where they're at. Ideally, yes, cut everything out that might be the culprit and might be the issue. But realistically, people aren't going to do that. So, people can eat small amounts of low sugar fruits if you have cancer, but you definitely can't sit and eat a mango or something that's high in sugar, or you
Mm,
shouldn't. Now, for fruit juice, even if you don't have cancer, fruit juice, straight fruit juice, is not healthy, even if it's all natural. Like if you take an apple and you put it in a green juice, that's one thing. But if you're going to have a fresh 5 apples freshly juiced and drink it, it's too much sugar too quickly. It gets in the system too quickly, and it creates a problem. So, scientifically or biology wise, there's many connections between sugar and cell malfunction or issues with the cells. And that's mostly done based on processed sugar and high fructose corn syrup and all these processed sugars. So natural sugar you can do. You can eat fruit and get better from cancer. You can do it, but you need not to overdo it, because if you overdo it and you're eating too much fat and then you're including the sugar, now you're getting yourself in a situation where that natural sugar will have a reaction in your body, almost like artificial sugar, and it can make the problem worse. So to play it safe, some of these people say, well, just don't do the sugar at all, and you don't have any chance of, which isn't a bad approach. It's not a bad approach. You want to make sure you're doing everything right. But if you feel the need to do it, then you could have a small amount. However, I definitely would not recommend people with cancer eat a high amount of sugar in their diet. Somebody just called me and they said, "Oh, I want to detox and do this." Now's not the time or the situation to be eating a high sugar diet. From what I've seen and the people I've interviewed and spoke with, and like I said, Fred Bishy told me he's had people eat fruit and get better from cancer,
mhm,
but he has people eat meat and get better from cancer.
mhm,
It's not exclusive
mhm.
to a raw food diet or a vegan
Yeah.
diet. Uh,
It's just like you see some people live to be 108 and they're eating meat and chocolate every day, right? And then you see some people like super healthy, they die at 60 or 40. So it's, I wish we had all
there's
these
so many
answers,
other
you know?
factors. There's so
Yeah.
many other factors, but I do think a person's best chances is to eliminate the meat and to definitely slow down on the sugar. Again, from what I've seen with my experience over the years, is the best diet for cancer is the Hippocrates Health Institute diet. Or if somebody wants to include some cooked food, the Hallelujah Acres diet, which is another biblically based diet, but it includes some cooked food. Those two are the best approaches for somebody with cancer, from what I've seen. I narrow fasting retreats if somebody tries to go that route. But somebody that can eat like a high fruit diet, who's an athlete, and on a raw
Hmm.
vegan diet, if you want to be an athlete, that's wonderful. But if you heal
Hmm.
from cancer, it's a different situation.
Hmm. And if do you think somebody's still confused about which path to take, right? They're just getting all these people in their ear, like I was saying earlier, do this, do this, do this, and they just really feel so confused that they cannot, they're like, I just feel so closed off. I have no idea what path to take. What are some things you think they can do to discover that path? Do you think maybe it's important to like spend some time alone and meditate, like in order to discover which is the right direction for you? Because you really have no idea and you don't want to make a mistake or something like that.
Well, my first answer is I tell people to develop a relationship with God and pray, because he does try to speak to us, and many of us are too busy with our lives that we don't listen. So, did you hear that?
He's talking to you right now.
Oh, yes, but it's really important. And like I know my friend Jordan Rubin, when he got diagnosed with cancer after healing from colitis and writing all these books, he had to get get and pray like big time, and it definitely helps, and it helps me on a regular basis. So that's my first answer. But this is why I think it's really important that people now, while we're healthy, while things are going good, have people in our lives that can make decisions for us when we're too emotionally unstable to make those right
Mhm.
decisions. And
Mhm.
I've done it with my relationships in life. I've done it with my money. I've done it with, my health. So even me, I know a lot. I would not be able to handle it if somebody told me I had cancer, I got a week to live. Immediately I'd call Dr. Bishy up or one of the other people I know and say, what should I do? Because I'm not emotionally able to handle that. Because if a doctor's telling me you could take chemo now and live, or you might not walk out of the hospital, as much as I know, it's a tough decision to make.
Mhm.
So have people that are wise and going to help you, not people that are unhealthy, and everyone. Here's the thing: everyone has your best interest in mind when it comes to your friends and families, but their interest might not be the best thing for you. That's why developing relationships in life and developing people you could be close with, ultimately, if you're married, your spouse should be the one that probably would knows your wishes when you're thinking sanely and you're not emotionally, and what you would want. So they'd be close to you. Maybe if somebody's, maybe it's their children, maybe it's their good friends, but having people in your life to help you make those decisions at those times, at least to just remind you and say, remember when you said this,
Mhm.
when you were thinking sanely, because it's not easy. So yeah. And some people are just going to listen to the doctors, and some people get better. I had people close to me that had cancer 20 or 30 years ago, and they did the chemo, they cut their organs out and so on, and they're doing fine this day.
Mhm.
So it works. I know one person who wrote a bunch of books on healing and health. He knew a tremendous amount of stuff about this, and he ended up getting kidney cancer, and he ended up getting his kidney removed, and he ended up ultimately dying. Uh, so I don't want to confuse people. I just, it's comforting to know our creator, and it's wise to have good people around us uh, that could help us in those situations.
Mhm. And with Chris beat cancer, do you remember what exactly he did after he did the surgery? What diet change he did? He went vegan, right?
Yeah, absolutely. He has a great story. Basically, he had colon cancer. They took it out. He went vegan, mostly raw. Did a lot of juicing,
Mhm.
and he's just great, encouraging to tell his story. But he did the surgery, and I think he says that he wouldn't have if he knew what he knew now, but I'm glad he did because it worked out for him, and now he's doing what he's doing.
Mhm.
But I could be wrong. Maybe he said he still would have did the surgery, but he learned a lot, and that's what he had to do to learn. So,
Mhm.
but there's so many people out there that are dealing with this. But please, I mean, I tell people, I mean, I'm not trying to push this on people, but I know this works. And the way I know this works is I'll tell everybody because Fred Bishop was telling me about this for a long time, this Valasta Astaxanthin, and I'm so busy, I don't have time to look into everything. But a good friend of mine's wife got a mouth cancer, and she was doing a bunch of things or whatever, and she found out kind of late. But then eventually, I told him about this, and she started taking it, and she ended up dying. And he came back to me about 2 months later. He said, "Paul, I just want you to know my wife tried a lot of things. And of all the things she's tried, there's two or three things that I know work. And all the other ones, I'm not sure." And he said this was one of them. He saw a tremendous improvement in her condition. And he believes if she would have started taking this earlier, she would still be alive. So
Wow.
he and their kids started taking this, and issues that they had, not cancer, but other issues they had, immediately cleared up. And then right away, I started taking this and seeing the result myself and telling loved ones about it, and they started taking it, and so on. And it's been a powerful thing for people out there, and it really does work. And I it speaks for itself how people keep getting it and the improvement they're making on their blood test. So
Mhm.
check that out. It's on my. I got a lot of videos with Sam Shepard, the one who invented this process to make this more absorbent.
Is there any like, you've been around the raw foods for so long and the natural healing, is there any, like, one story that comes to mind as somebody who, like, totally healed and thrived that you know of? Like, naturally?
Naturally, yes. From a Christian standpoint, I've met people that had cancer and they like literally prayed, prayed it away. It's amazing. And I interviewed those people on my Bible channel. Their body was flooded with cancer, and they prayed and they got better. And they weren't even eating healthy or doing anything like that. So those things have made a great impression in my life. And I'm so happy that I decided to record many of these things in terms of interviewing these people that have went through these things. So on my raw food channel, I have a lot of people that have gotten better by making better choices with their diet and so on. But from a spiritual standpoint, I've got interviews with these people that have gotten better, uh, all these different ways. So it's all made an impression. So I'm glad to have those.
Yeah, amazing. Well, this has been so amazing. You have so much wisdom, knowledge. I love the way you speak, communicate. I'm always so grateful to have you on. Is there anything else you want to end off with? Anything you feel inspired to say? Maybe any advice for somebody out there who's been diagnosed or someone close to them? And then as well, please let everybody know where they can find you, and I'll link it below as well.
Sure, absolutely. I just got off the phone with somebody before I spoke to you who's dealing with cancer now. And she's so confused about diet. And she says some detox coach told her to go on fruit juice and just do a fruit fast. And other people are telling me that I have people call me up saying my husband's dying and they're crying. They don't know what to do. And, I try my best to help them, but you have to, I understand when you get diagnosed with the disease, the stress that goes along with it. It's the hardest thing a person to deal with when their life is on the line. I mean, I can't think of anything as bad. Like, I mean, when your life is on the line, everything changes. Everything changes. And I understand. And my heart goes out to you. I'm here too if you just want to pray or if you need somebody to just listen to you. But I also, if you need help with of what to do, I could be that person in your life that can make these wise decisions for you. If you want to contact me, since I was sick and I got into this because I was sick, I'm dedicated to helping people that are sick, and so yeah, just everybody stay encouraged and stay strong and try to find people that have gotten better, whether they went to the doctors and did it through the medical route or whether they did it on their own naturally. Try to find people and connect with people. That's why I love that series, The Truth About Cancer. And that's why people like Dr. Or Nurse Tom at Hippocrates, formerly at Hippocrates, Nurse Tom, or Dr. Sandra, formerly at Hippocrates, Sandra Rangel, and Chris Walk. These are people that have they're not just doctors or nurses or people that have good information. They're people that have been where people are at, so they can completely, as much as I say I connect with people, I've never been given a diagnosis of death, or even though I had skin cancer, or not like a major cancer, but these are people that have, so they understand really what you're going through on a whole nother level. So it's good to connect with them, and so I do my best to provide all that information for people to do their best to connect with them. So
Mhm.
yeah, so everyone's in my prayers. You can contact me through my website, rawlifehealthshow.com, rawlifehealthshow.com, and all my information's there. And just look me up on social media, Paul Neeson. I'm pretty much all over. So yeah, and my prayers
Mhm.
go with you all who are dealing with this.
My prayers as well. And you have a lot of great videos on cancer. So definitely everybody go follow Paul. He has great content. And to anybody out there who is suffering from cancer or knows a loved one who are, my prayers again are with you. I'm deeply sorry. And I hope you find the path that is right for you. And I hope it leads to just a greater, more positive life and positive path.
All right, everybody. I know that's such an important topic. If you joined us in the middle and you didn't see the beginning, that was from another channel. They allowed me to share this on my channel, and I felt it was important to do so because the way it came out. If you are suffering from cancer or know someone who is, and you need help, I make myself available through consultations and through prayer. So just contact me and put your comments and questions below the video as well. Until then, everybody, I pray that you just keep finding the answers and have a blessed day. Have a great world life.
Nature's wealth, good for your health. This is the Raw Life Health Show. Raw Life, brighten up your life.